I'm Brian on YouTube at New Life Recovery. Today we're talking about 5 ways to face anxiety. And I say face anxiety because a lot of times we, if we're honest, are good at running from anxiety, avoiding things that make us anxious. Um, One thing that I learned recently was that when we avoid things that make us anxious, it actually upregulates our anxiety. And that makes a lot of sense. Suppose, for example, I have a fear of going over a bridge. And so when I, drive up or get close to the bridge, or I'm thinking about, the bridge I got to cross later that day, I start to get in that lower brain function. My panic starts to arise, my heart starts to beat, and I get adrenaline and cortisol, and, I'm ready to fight or flee. And so what I do is I avoid it. I say, you know what, I'm going to take the long way around. It's only going to be a half hour longer. And so I take the long way around. And so I avoided the thing that made me anxious. And then my body returned to normal. Well, what that does to us physiologically, or at least in our brains, is it tells our brain that by avoiding that scary thing that made us safe, so that thing really must be scary. So it actually makes crossing the bridge next time even harder. It upregulates the idea of how crazy scary going over this bridge is. That makes so much sense. But all the more reason to consider, man, how much stuff am I avoiding? When we avoid those difficult phone calls that we have to make, or 1,000 other things. Another thing, and this is an example that the doctor used on this video I watched fairly recently. We get triggered by the news. There's so much bad news out there. And I just did a video, I don't know, 2, 3 days ago, less than a week ago, about anxiety and what's going on with the war in Israel. And that gives me anxiety. You know, we we hear about all of these terrible things, but what happens is we hear about these terrible things again, it gets us put in that lower brain function where we're like fight or flight, and we start to have anxiety growing up around that thing, but there's nothing we can do about it. And so we just sit with that anxiety. There's no release. It's like if our house, there was a small fire in your kitchen, you would have that anxiety. You'd go in that lower brain function, but then you'd go put out the fire, and then you'd go clean up the mess. And then that would kind of complete that cycle. You had the event that caused you anxiety, you resolved it to the best of your ability, and then your brain and your body calmed down and went back to a state of feeling safe. But with some of these perceived threats, like the news, all of these scary things, there's really nothing for us to do about it. Or sometimes we don't feel like there's anything we can do. And so we stay stuck in that sense of heightened anxiety, which causes all sorts of problems for us. So today I'm going to give us 5 ways that we can face our anxiety. And the first one is close the loop by acting physical. If the house was on fire, we could go do something about it and burn off that adrenaline and work through that cortisol. But when we're anxious, our body is still giving us that to some degree. Now, it might not be to the degree, of course, if your house is on fire. But one thing you can do when you're feeling anxious that will help you physiologically get better is do something, act physical, clean the house, go mow the lawn, weed the garden, go for a walk, create something, draw, paint, do your crafts, get out, at least go for a walk, and that will close the loop by acting physical. The second thing that we can do to face anxiety is to at least limit our exposure to stretchers when possible. If I'm already going through a lot of anxiety, the last thing I need is to keep watching the news, to stay on social media. If it's gossip at work that's causing you stress, you've got some control to pull back from that. And with the war in Israel, for example, I gave myself permission. You don't have to follow it minute by minute and hour by hour. And I've taken a few days off, from watching that, just to kind of give myself a break. So 1, close the loop by acting physically. 2, limit your exposure to the stressors when possible. And the third thing is that we can do to face anxiety is to be intentional about positivity. Be positive, which is healthier for our brain than being negative. Practice gratitude. I'm feeling anxious right now. I'm so grateful for my wife. I'm so grateful for my kids, and specifically, what am I grateful about my wife? Man, I love how we laugh and joke. I love how my daughter loves to go hiking with me. I'm so proud of my son and his achievements. Be intentional about positivity. Another thing is, about being positive, insert some positivity into your life. Sometimes the best thing I can do is watch something on YouTube that has nothing to do with wars and rumors of wars. It doesn't have anything to do with the fast-paced life that we're going through. Watch a funny cat video or whatever it is for you that can help you. Be intentional about finding something positive or light. So the first one, we close the loop by acting physical. The second one, we limit our exposure to the stressors when possible. The third thing, we're intentional about positivity. And the fourth thing, and this is so powerful, guys, be okay with being anxious. Sit with your feeling of anxiety. When we face a fear of painful memory in a safe place, without judging ourselves or being judged, it allows our amygdala to categorize that fear or memory as something not quite as impossible to conquer, as insurmountable. In other words, if I've got a fear of the bridge and I sit with that fear and I tell myself, I'm okay. I'm having a little fear. I'm having a little anxiety about crossing that bridge. And I can handle this anxiety. Sometimes just sitting with it, just sitting with that anxiety, it helps our brains know, okay, I have this anxiety, but I'm not dying. Look at me, I'm still safe. And that makes your brain categorize that bridge as not so hard to cross, not so insurmountable. And that goes right into the fifth thing. So to recap, close the loop by acting physically. The second one, limit our exposure to the stressors whenever possible. The third thing, be intentional about positivity. The fourth thing, sit with our anxiety and know that that's okay. And that's going to bolster our confidence and tell our brain that we can handle it. Then the fifth thing is practice grounding techniques. And grounding techniques are something that helps you do that number 4. It helps you sit with your anxiety and know that you're okay. This is especially helpful if you're really, really in high anxiety. Sit down and just be in the present and acknowledge I'm going through some anxiety right now. But as I look around my room, I'm safe. I happen to see my 2 cats sitting on my bed right now, sleeping. There's no danger here. Right now, in the present, I'm safe. Grounding techniques often deal with something tactile. In other words, they have you feel something. Put your hand on the desk that you're sitting on and feel the cool. Or put your hand around your coffee mug and feel its warmth. And sit with that and tell yourself right now, in this moment, I'm safe. I'm okay. Some grounding techniques have to do with just, I'm in the moment. I'm okay. Touch your fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4 to your thumb. Here I am. I'm in the present. Or put an ice cube in the palm of your hand and you feel that ice cube and you say, here I am right now in the present, and you're watching it melt and you're feeling that sensation. And so you're very focused on that ice cube while you're telling yourself, right now, I'm in the moment, and you'll feel that anxiety decrease. And guys, I hope that that's helpful for you. Let me know in the comments below, what are some things that cause you anxiety, and what are some things that you've done to conquer those? If this is helpful, like and subscribe. Love you guys. God bless you. And until next time, be well.